Hello, beauties. Today we get to dive into cycles. Cycles are happening all the time, inside of us and around us, even if we are not paying attention. This is important because we're cyclical beings and we live in a very linear world. So attuning ourselves to cycles can really help us realign to who we truly are. Nothing exists alone. All of our influences outside of us are contributing to who we are, and vice versa. Everything within us, our existence, our hormones, our behavior, our beliefs are influencing the world without. So everything is connected, and part of the beauty of life is these cycles and how we relate to them. So today I intend to bring you this profound truth and also just everyday tools around realigning yourself and paying more attention to what really matters. By moving from unconscious to conscious and even intentional about attuning to these cycles, we can harness that wisdom either within us or out in the world. And that really is what this is all about. So let's get started. First, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Valerie. I created this channel because I am extremely called to support people in finding their purpose, in finding clarity, and in finding joy in their lives. And honestly, I just want to widen the permission field to feel good. I feel like we have a societal norm around things should be hard and it's a struggle and everything's terrible. And I just want to give you the permission slip, here you go, that you can feel good and you deserve to feel good. So that's what this channel is about. All the tools and resources I give in my work and provide through my work are based in these truths. So the other morning, I was reading Alice Walker's book, We Are the Ones We're Waiting For. We have been waiting for. And if you haven't read it, or any of her, she is absolutely brilliant and really so poignant. No matter when she wrote her novels or her nonfiction, it always seems relevant to life and to what we're going through now. So there was a specific passage about death, and a woman who was dying decided to burn all of her belongings and in order to erase her humanness. And she had a sister who was looking on in disbelief and horror at her doing this. And Alice's words were simple. When life descends into the pit, I must become my own candle, willingly burning myself to light up the darkness around me. Wow. That really hit me. Literally brought me to my knees, tears free flowing. I wrote a whole blog about it on my website. I'd love for you to go read it. I really was struck by it, and it reminded me of this practice that I have heard Buddhist monks do, which is that early in the morning, they wake up very early, 4 a.m. or 4:30 a.m., and they have this set of practices that they go through. Some are tidying and tending to their physical environment, and some are tidying and tending to their spiritual and emotional environment within. And one of the things they do is that they meditate on death. And this is just, it was unbelievable for me, I think, when I first heard it. And that's just a product of living in this culture where we're very afraid of death and we don't face it. And we're afraid of releasing things and letting go and saying goodbye and all of the things that death means, whether it's a human death or whether it's the death of a project or the death of, something we loved in this world that we have to say goodbye to. And I now am understanding this practice in the Buddhist monk tradition is absolutely essential for living life to the fullest. I think they figured this out a long time ago, that by meditating on death, they're really bringing themselves fully after that meditation to life each day. And at this time and in this way, nature just reminds us that not everything is meant to be carried forward. And the things that we need to say goodbye to or need to release are feeding growth of something else and have done their work in us. And when it's time to let go, it causes more suffering for us to continue to hang on. Can you imagine a tree just holding on to its leaves like dead and brown and I'm not going to let go? Of course not. Nature is very graceful in this way. Nature knows the cycle of life, and that by letting go, they're creating space and room and rest for what's to come in the spring. And so this is the kind of energy that we want to tune into. So while every cycle has its high energy, passionate fire, there's also the releasing, there's also the falling away, there's also the death. And same as in our life cycle. So to the candle that lights up the darkness in Alice Walker's book, it's all the same. Whether it's a leaf or whether it's a human, it's all in that cycle. And becoming attuned to those cycles will help us navigate all of it. So as I said at the very beginning, we are cyclical beings, and yet we live in a very linear culture and linear era. And it's kind of what capitalism demands of all of us. Just a straight move forward, not looking back, sometimes running over things, just moving forward at all costs. And even though we're used to it and we probably don't think too much about it, we're actually really suffering because of it, because it's so misaligned with the true cyclical being that we are. I like to think in shapes. So in the linear fashion, of course, we're talking about a line. It's just could go on forever in a straight line. But now think of a spiral. A spiral contains multitudes, and I love thinking of this shape as a metaphor for our life cycle. It starts small and tight in the center. Our life is very small. And even though it may be circling around its center, it's staying quite tight. It's just a beginning, right? Then it slowly expands outward, looping itself around again and again. And it's looking back and inward while also looking outward. It can see both ways. The spiral moves forward, but it stays in relationship to its past, ideally. Some of us take a while to do that. Later in life, we start to look back and revisit this old ground. But we're always doing it from a different angle. We're not doing it from the same path. We see some patterns, we see lessons, but we're seeing them as a new version of ourselves. It's such a beautiful way to think about how life happens. And obviously it's different from a circle, which is just going around in the same path over and over again, even though I think a circle is an incredibly sacred shape and has its own meaning and beauty. But a spiral is what living cyclically is all about. We're not failing or starting over every time we slow down or shift directions. We're just evolving. And we're on the path. We're circling around the beginning. And then we're circling around the past. We're moving through seasons. We're gathering what we've learned. We're resting. And then we're expanding again and continuing to move. And the spiral reminds me that growth isn't linear. It's rhythmic. It's circular. Or spiralic, if you will. And I think when we honor that, we start to feel a lot more human, a lot more aligned with things, how things actually work. So we're going to do that now and immerse ourselves in some of the cycles that we find naturally. I'll start with external cycles. And this, there are things external to us happening all the time that we're not aware of. And we can, biologists or naturalists might be more familiar with a bird cycle or a soil cycle or a tree cycle. But for most of us in a modern world, the biggest natural cycle that we can align to is the seasons. And right now, as I film this, it's moving from summer to fall. We're about a month into fall. And So I'll talk a little bit more about that. And summer is the season that the energy is hot and dry. It's very fiery and passionate. It's about creation and having things come into full bloom. And, the earth is bearing fruit, and it's asking us to do the same. And then as we transition to autumn, we can often feel some of that bursting sort of summer energy still wanting to come out, and that's pretty natural for that to happen. But the weather is cooler, it's a drier energy, it's time to harvest our fruit. It's time to release what's not working anymore. And it's time to reflect and getting ready for rest, right? Getting ready for winter. I think of this as kind of the exhale cycle, where we're working, creating in summer. And then the fall is kind of a slowdown, and we're relaxing a little bit, and we're receiving what we've created before we then turn to a more dormant time, which is winter and the restful season. So winter being the time for rest, introspection, restoration. It's a time for being still. It gets dark early for a purpose. We're meant to go to bed early. We're meant to get more rest. We're meant to have more time being with ourselves and being, internal. And then spring, of course, is renewal and growth and new ideas coming to fruition, possibility, inspiration. It's kind of when we feel like we need to clean out the cobwebs and get new things rolling. It's an awakening of sorts. And then there's the equinox times, right? The in-between times, the balance between light and dark. And I think this can be a really interesting time of year too, because it's time when we, may feel a little uneasy, a little out of balance, and we're being called to balance both the light and the dark. Another external cycle that many women are attuned to, because it's a 28-day cycle, is the lunar cycle. And new moon is kind of similar to a spring energy. So it's associated with starting fresh, new beginnings, ideation, planning. And then the full moon is associated with like the full maturity of ideas, and also honoring what we've created and letting go of what we maybe haven't created, or letting go of something that's really been, eating at us. So that is not an exhaustive list of external cycles, but again, just wanted to cover two big ones that we as humans are more attuned to in the world. Then we move internal. So there's a philosophy, kind of a body of work called anthroposophy, and it was created by an Austrian philosopher in the late 1800s. His name is Rudolf Steiner. Anthroposophy means the wisdom of the human being, and it's a beautiful, beautiful body of work. It talks about the development of the human in 7-year cycles. And some people who have children might be familiar with the early stages, the 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, as your child is developing. And if you're not, I would encourage you to go look it up, because it's brilliant and can really help anchor you in how your child's developing. But the 7-year cycle does not end at 21. It continues. There's actually 10 cycles that he's kind of studied and written about, and all the way up to 70 and then beyond. So for most of you watching, you're probably in your adulthood, in somewhere in your 30s or 40s, I would guess. So I wanted to just cover 2 of the 7-year cycles to bring you kind of aware of what your cycle is and which cycle you're in. So from 35 to 42, this is the phase of the unfolding. It's kind of a crisis and a questioning era, and it's a big transition. It's associated with, I've reached some goals in life, and now I'm feeling not so sure they were the right ones, or not so sure with what I align to any longer. The question of what is my true source of happiness comes up. Is it in the material world? Is it in this human world? Or is it greater than that? Is it in the divine beloved, in the great spirit? in God, whatever you want to call it. And how do I search for that? Where are those answers? What are those things I should be aligning myself to? And then from 42 to 49, this is kind of a phase of uniqueness and setting ourselves apart and really being at peace with our uniqueness. A lot of soul searching, a lot of wondering and questioning. So no matter if we're aware of it or not, we're moving toward this profound balance of mastery of our skills and our experience in life, because obviously by this time we have quite a bit of experience in life, and then of the new spiritual powers that we might be tuning into, intuition and connection to the divine, and how we mix those two. So this is a really beautiful time. It's the cycle that I'm in, and I find just an incredible amount of peace and power through this process. The vision of life expands beyond just the daily grind, and we're just willing to anchor ourselves in something that is beyond ourselves. So that's the first internal cycle I wanted to talk about, human development. And then there's the hormonal or menstrual cycle for women. And this, again, is a 28-day cycle, and it actually follows the seasons. So it's kind of amazing if you look at how the menstrual cycle, the actual part where you're bleeding, is more closely aligned with winter. And it's a time for allowing flow and space to nourish yourself and just rest. This is when that hormonal shift can happen. And then the follicular is the next phase, and it's kind of the spring. It's emerging, integrating. And the ovulatory is the summer, and for obvious reasons. And this is where things can feel very creative. I often find this in my own cycle. I can feel very aligned with my desires and wanting to create from that place. And, it's only happening for a few days a month, but it's still a very creative, exciting time. And then there's the luteal phase, which is the fall of your menstrual cycle. And that's the slowing down and releasing tension and preparing for rest. So it's pretty amazing when you start to look at how all of these cycles align. For men, it's different. They're actually on a 24-hour hormonal cycle, not a 28-day cycle. So their hormone shifts very quickly, and it doesn't necessarily align the same way that ours does. And then the last one I wanted to cover is just the internal kind of daily cycle that we go through, and that, from wake to sleep, from nourished to empty, from giving to receiving, and from cocooning ourselves and just being internal to ourselves to being productive and creating things. So these all can happen in a day cycle, right? And some people want to get up and just meet the day immediately and get to work and that's when they're most productive. And some people want to take a long tail of a morning and, meditate, move their body, go into some writing practices. And I would say just the more you can align with what you need, the better. Everyone's different. And I'm going to create a future video on doing all of this within the work context. So if you're talking to me right now, I can't do that, Val, because I work at a 9 to 5 and I have to be in and all of those things. This is where that permission field is widened, and where I want you to feel like you can ask for, and you can draw boundaries, and you can ask for what you need. So I'll create a future video on that, and please comment below if you want me to cover any specifics or if you have specific questions around that. But the real key that I want to kind of end with is just this bodily check-in. If you watched my last video on intuition, it's called You Are an Intuitive, and I cover all the different types of intuition and how to activate that within yourself. You'll know that your intuition is talking to you, is using your body to communicate with you. And so the more you can tap into that and reflect and really ask what it needs. I mean, honestly, sometimes I just ask my body, what do you want to eat for breakfast? And I'll get a very clear answer. It's not a voice for me. I'm claircognizant, which means I just have a knowing. So it'll just be like, it'll hit me, eggs or whatever it is. And I'll just know, okay, that's what I need to eat right now. And so you can ask it, just check in. And you don't have to believe what I'm saying, but I would encourage you to just try it and see what comes up. And a reflection in all of this is just asking yourself, how am I aligned to these cycles? How am I tuning in? Or how am I not at all? How do I realign to some of these things that feel really resonant for me, but I don't know much about? And I would just ask yourself, what is that thing that I can feel more aligned to? Do I need to kind of tweak my daily schedule around my energy? Do I need to pay more attention to my hormonal menstrual cycle? Do I want to realign with the seasons and have a ceremony with my friends at the seasonal change? I do that here, not every season, but whenever we can, we get together in community and honor the changing of the seasons. And I can't tell you the massive difference it makes to really sinking into that time and enjoying it fully. So I would just encourage you to reflect on, what is it that you need to tune into? What is it your body's asking for in this time? If you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, anxious about any of this, I invite you to reach out to me on my website under the contact button. I'm taking a couple one-on-one clients for the rest of the year, and I'd love to support you in any way I can. And if you're not quite needing that level of support, I do have a twice a month newsletter where I go into purpose and motherhood and gaining clarity and just give tools and practices for having more peace and feeling good in your life. So I really hope that you join, and I can't wait to see you next time.